Welcome to this episode of ICAN on Air Enlightenment Series. And today, we interrogate the subject, positioning professional accountants within dynamics of national security architecture in Nigeria. Indeed, the costs of ensuring national security is very high. But assessing this cost for effectiveness has received very little attention. One way of recording and ascertaining the opportunity costs of financial resources expended on national security is via peace accounting. Peace accounting, an innovative idea that is taking firm root in Nigeria and the world over. This deals with ascertaining and reporting the financial resources accompanying domestic violence, such as insecurity, political violence, insurgency, kidnapping for ransom, militancy, economic predicament, corruption, and other costs associated with national security. Joining me on our question and answer segment to provide hands-on and personal insights on our Nigerian situation and related matters, and thereby give us professional accountants a gaining and understanding, is Aliyu Umar Babaginda, popularly known all over the world as Captain Blade. Captain Blade is a seasoned ex-army officer with the Nigerian Army Intelligence Corps that we normally call DMI. And he is CEO, Goldwater Consults, Security Solutions and Resource Consultants. He is also a director on the board of Guard Edge, an exclusively Legionnaire initiative to complement first responder security initiatives in private and public clients. More to unveil on our esteemed guests very shortly. Also, on this program, we'll be letting you, as usual, into our ICAN diary of events. The Institute of Chartered Accountants of Nigeria, year-round, apart from education, also have events that we share with our publics, with our districts. We're going to be letting you into little bits and pieces of this, plus few advice on how to get to us. Please stay connected. We will be back with you very shortly.
Are you ready for exponential results this year? Do you desire and seek to build economic value and wealth on a consistent basis? We're proud to introduce to you the 4th ICAN Malaysia International Conferences. The theme is Building Economic Resilience, Navigating Turbulent Times Through Digital Transformation. This year's conference has been put together to empower and equip participants with the needed shift for personal, professional and institutional transformation. The conference dates, the 16th to the 19th of May 2022. Venue, Adia Hotel Langkawi, Kedah, Malaysia. For further inquiries, please send a mail to chairman@ican-malaysia.org or info@ican-malaysia.org. You can also visit our website https://ican-malaysia.org to register for the conference now. You can also reach out to us through the following contact numbers currently being displayed on the screen. +60 1632064113, +62 8121572358, 60,176,197,280, +234 8033502768, +234 8067908190. We look forward to your registration and participation at the conference. If you're ready to start your registration and payment process, please contact one of our friendly coordinators or simply visit the website to complete your registration. The website is https://ican-malaysia.org. Thank you. We're looking forward to seeing and connecting with you in Malaysia.
Thank you again for tuning to ICAN on Air. And please join me to welcome Aliyu Umar Babaginda, the Captain Blade, onto ICAN on Air. Welcome, Captain Blade.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I'm indeed privileged to be here with you today, sir. How are you today?
I am very fine. But like most Nigerians, questions have been asked about virtually everything within security architecture. Indeed, no profession or professional feels safe where surrounding issues of security continues to dot our landscape. We are going to get to know a little bit more about you and your military career shortly, but to set the tone for our discussion, because we have on board our professional accountants, business personnel, a student of accounting, who perhaps more than any other place, this interactive comes great to them. And so we want to set that tone for this discussion and looking at positioning professional accountants within the dynamics of national security architecture in Nigeria. Let me ask, are there any touch points regarding professional accounting and the nation's security scenario? Really, where does professional accounting meet and contribute to security operations? The military, the law enforcement person, and other custodians of our nation's security architecture.
Thank you very much, Mr. Fatunke, for that very wonderful question. In fact, you just, if I was a guitar, I would say you've just struck on the right chord. And to begin this conversation, I will want to set the minds of our listeners in sync with what I want to say so that they can come along with me. Now, I'm sure when you talk about contact points of accounting to our national security architecture or national security plan, I am sure the term forensic accounting is not new to your profession. Nigeria Institute for Chartered Accountants of Nigeria is replete with forensic accountants. And forensic accounting to national security architecture are like 5 and 6. And the reason is simple. The forensic accountant is, if you like, an investigative accountant. And don't forget that our national security architecture is actually a statement that talks about our plan for ensuring our nation is absolutely secure. The recent one, that is the National Security Strategy Statement by the Office of the National Security Advisor, was released sometime in 2020, I believe. And I could remember I did a critique of that document. on another media platform. Now, the forensic accountant is actually like the modern day leverage to solving 75% of our national security problems. And I will tell you how. Most of what we are doing is just the remaining 25%. If we really wanted to take out all our national security problems and secure Nigeria properly, be it banditry, be it terrorism, be it corruption, you mentioned it. You will agree with me that all these things are actually oiled by cash. All these things depend on a kind of cash flow in and out to thrive. So what do you think happens if within the national security dynamics we begin to look more and lean more and even invite our forensic accountants to come in with their magnifying glasses and help us follow not the paper trails but the money trail? There it is at a minimum before we delve in deeper.
Super. Forensic accountants, forensic audits, and I can say without any fear of equivocation that the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Nigeria have been at the forefront, saying and showing that template to the rest of Nigeria that yes, we train, we are practitioners, and we know our onions when it comes to this. Any issue, 75%, like you said, come to our institute and it's solved. I am interested, Captain Blade, to ask for us to gain some other better understanding about you from the way you have reeled out that intro. And I must thank you. And so, what motivated your choice of a military career?
Well, I was born into it. Let me explain it this way. I come from a royal family. I come from the Usman Zaki ruling house of the Bida Emirate. And you see, prehistorically, across Nigeria, prehistorically means pre-colonially. Much of what royal families did was to lead by conquest. So we were born soldiers. And indeed, I must tell you that our armed forces has its own fair share of princes, if you like, from all over Nigeria, across all the kingdoms, in the armed forces. So at a point when it became untrendy and irrelevant to rule by conquest, the next and the nearest place that felt like home to us would be the armed forces, where we could put our born and honed in skills to practice. So we became soldiers. Grandfather soldier, father soldier, son soldier. Well, that's so my being drawn to a military career would actually been something like, is it hereditary? And then being what we call, and proudly too, a barrack boy. I
Mm,
just naturally I just blended in, and that was it.
mm, mm. Fantastic, interesting. And having lived and grown within military societies, like you said, pre-colonial, uh, in such regimented environments, what would you say, or how would you describe the basic difference between civil life and barrack life?
There is really very little difference between the civil life and barrack life. Maybe the difference will just be the walls. You know, if you've seen a military barracks before, you find out that there are two sides of a wall surrounding the barracks, and the outside is civil, the inside is military. I say so deliberately for a reason. You see, from the military populace, soldiers are drafted. And back, sorry, from the civil populace, soldiers are recruited, not draft. We don't run a draft army. And back into the civil populace, every soldier prays to return. On, from civilians, we come onto civilians, we return. No soldier really prays to end his life in service, even though that may just happen. It's part of the occupational hazards. So, is there a difference between a soldier and a civilian? I say not really, because the raw material base, the populace from which the soldiers are taken out is the citizenry, the civil populace. And then back into the civil populace, they return on retirement. So it's just a question of perception. Particularly beautiful now is our democracy, where we are beginning to see a very, very robust encouragement of relationship between civilians and soldiers. Our wives are soldiers, husbands civilian. Some have husbands who are soldiers, wives civilians. So there is really no difference. It's just a mentality thing. But civilians, soldiers, we're all citizens working towards, as we said, the security, the national security of our nation, including forensic accountants and is it forensic audits you call them? We're all
Yes, forensic
contributors.
audit.
Yes, we're all contributors in one way to the national security architecture dynamics of this country. The focus, of course, of which today is your profession.
I thank you very much, Captain Blade. I will not allow you to take flight yet. It may be
Okay.
perception, it may not be reality. Growing up, going to school, being a professional, studying to become a professional accountant, writing my exams here and there, something came into our line of thoughts. And I'll give you one of them. I'd like you to respond. Because we are, okay, right or wrong, we are told military training institutions like the depot, the Nigerian Defense Academy, okay, step back, Nigerian Military School, Zaria, are responsible for the hostile ambience of the Nigerian soldiers. And you haven't been to NDA. What will you say concerning these perceptions that is taking flight within the public?
Really, there are. In fact, I before I went to NDA, I went to the Air Force Military School, JOS. And I recall when I went home on break, then I was just 11 years old in what we call JS1 today, but then it was Form 1. I recall my mom of blessed memory. She took me aside and asked me one question I will never forget. She asked me whether it's true they used to inject us in our head. And I was like, how is it possible for you to be injected in the head? She said they're meant to understand. Don't forget, my mother is a soldier's wife. Those are all perceptions, scary news. But let me just put it to you the truth, very truthfully. Military training is tough. Physically, it is very rigorous. Mentally, it is quite trying. As a boy of 11, I was in class running 27 subjects. 27 subjects combining military training subjects and my academics. And I was made to understand that there are 40 hours in a day, and 24 of those 40 belonged to my drill instructors, where I find the balance of 16 for my academic instructors was my business. But my instructors would take every minute of those 24 hours. So imagine an 11-year-old who had to go through that. He'll forget how to smile. believe you me, you forget how to smile. And because you carry what we call cow face in those days, people tend to think you are aggressive, you are wicked, you are bullish. No, soldiers basically are not. Some of the perfect gentlemen you can find are soldiers. You will agree with me, off records now, that if you went into the streets, you'll hear that, wow, why is it that soldiers like women a lot? So do wicked women marry or do you see it's not adding up. Some of the best first ladies I know were married to military officers. Go back to Nigerian history. If they were
Mm.
brutish or they were brutal, why would they have commanded such wonderful first ladies? And to this day, I tell you, we have very, very wonderful, you know, generals, male and female. And of course, there are no isolation of incidents too, of one or two who step out of line and misbehave. And those are always properly handled. But to say we were trained to be hostile, no, we're not trained to be hostile. The training actually hardens you up. It makes you a bit more, let me say, I became a man earlier than my colleagues in Federal Government College Jos. Yeah, the discipline saw to that. So even when we went home, you could see a difference between myself and my colleagues. Where they were carrying the latest hairdos, I was carrying a shiny head. Where they laughed easily, I was a bit more sober. But that did not make us brutes per se. No, no.
Fantastic. Beautiful. So we have looked at the persona of the soldier, and we better just look at Nigeria because we, as professional accountants, we ply our trade within Nigeria that we expect to be safe, fit for purpose. And naturally, we will only feel secured if we can do our integrity tests, our accuracy tests without fear of favor. So I like to ask you, as a national security enthusiast, within the ambit of us as professional accountants, wanting to touch light, wanting to do a forensic audit with all the dangers that might be surrounding, how will you describe Nigeria?
If you look at our country today, you are going to see some very how do, large expanse of land. In fact, most people don't even appreciate the size of our country. So let's do what accountants do. Accountants measure things. I recall those days when I was delving into my roadside accounting curiosity. Curiosity took me into accounting anyway, but the accountant will tell you if you can't measure anything, you cannot control it. So before we talk about Nigeria, what I see, let's try to measure Nigeria. Nigeria itself, the size of Nigeria, if you were to measure the land and our sea borders across or around Nigeria, if you went around Nigeria with a tape, you're going to get over 4,000 kilometers of land and sea borders. And that is in itself longer than the entire length of the River Niger from Senegambia or wherever it is, it has its source, down to the Atlantic at the tributary in Lokoja. So if you are looking at a country, the sheer geographical boundary of which is even longer than Africa's longest river or one of Africa's longest rivers, then you should be able to now begin to see through an accountant's mind how large our country is, this space that is encapsulated by this particular length of land and sea borders. So basically, what do you see in Nigeria? You see in Nigeria an expanse of so many entities that within them you have some over 700 local governments, you have over 300 ethnic nationalities, you have three majorly spoken languages. I can continue. But bottom line, as accountants say, Nigeria is potentially 36 confederating units waiting to happen. Don't forget, again, if we were to draw a balance sheet now of West Africa, I'm using my wayside accounting now. If we were to draw a balance sheet of West Africa, right now in West Africa, we have 18 or so countries. Now I'm telling you that Nigeria, which is just one of the 18, is actually a potential of some 35 possible confederating units waiting to happen. So what do you think happens? We'll tilt the balance, because if we were to form 35 confederating units and call ourselves 35 confederating countries, if you like, then there will be only 16 left or 17 in West Africa. So we've already cancelled out West Africa. I think the United States of America enjoys something similar, where you're looking at 53 countries. 53 countries walking into the United Nations can just veto about anything. They actually are a quantum of 53 countries moving as one. Nigeria potentially is 35, or is it 36? Okay, no, the Federal Capital Territory makes it 36. So it's 35 packaged together as one. Then we walk into ECOWAS, and what is left of it? If we were to draw a trial balance or a balance sheet, as you call it, what will be left of ECOWAS, where one side is already way heavier than the other? So 35 to 17, it will not balance. And you know that knows something. So already, Nigeria is what you call the West African region itself waiting to happen. Yes, we have that potential.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Actually, 36 states and the Federal Capital Territory. Ooh,
Yes,
so the potential is there. So it's just an oyster for us to go capture. Now, let me ask you just this question.
absolutely.
Professionally, what are your dreams for Soldier Nigeria? Soldier Nigeria. What are your dreams for Soldier Nigeria?
No, I get a bit emotional when we speak to Soldier Nigeria. I get emotional because anyone who wears that uniform for Nigeria, even if it's for a day, should have nothing else to want for. And that again is where I see our Institute of Chartered Accountants of Nigeria coming in. And it's also call it call it a subtle part of what you could call welfare packages that could also impact our national security plan and architecture positively. The Nigerian Army, Air Force, and Navy have chartered accountants, no doubt about that. We have the Nigerian Army School for Finance and Administration, NASFA. It's somewhere in Apapa in Lagos. I know that. But what do I see? What do I see? I have this futuristic mindset for Soldier Nigeria. I want to see that day, for example, where there's going to be a very intimate and healthy liaison between our Institute for Chartered Accountants of Nigeria and the armed forces to lead the military community to the stock floor. I don't know. I may sound a bit of a dreamer, or is it? I may sound a bit of a. Is it Moses now? Who was that dreamer? Who was always dreaming and his brother sold him into slavery? So
Joseph.
I mean, Joseph, sorry, Joseph.
Right.
I may sound like a Joseph. Sorry, I'm a Muslim, so I'm not too vast in the Bible. But then, you see, why can we lead the Nigerian armed forces community to the stock floor and ring a bell for them? I'll tell you why. If you took every single serving soldier and officer and you added every single every single retired soldier and officer alive, those that are living, you will discover that the population you're going to get is quite a chunk. Probably you'll get the population of Alimosho local government area of Lagos State. If you added Navy, Air Force to the Army, you added customs, immigration, civil defense, they're all soldiers. They're wearing uniforms because they are sons of Nigeria fighting on different, even our accountants, the forensics, if they join the NSA today, they become soldiers. But let's just limit it to these security agencies I've mentioned. Each one of them serving, each one of them retired alive. Now you're simply going to get a community that is so blessed that every single one of them is an income earner. He either earns a salary or he earns a pension. So what if we had what we call what do we call it now? The accountants call them. I'll give you the name now. It's in my head, but they are not stocks actually, but it's a portfolio that you have and you take in money and manage it for people. Mhm. And when you do that, what do? They get dividends. They get, you. So we're looking at a situation where could we have that day where every month, from cadet through serving officers through retired officers, you have this what you call arrangement where you have an exclusively military community stockbroking options, and you bring them in and say, you know what, this is what we're going to do for you over a period of your service years. From the day you enlist, I'm sure before you are done half of your service years, you should have been able to see a situation where we have an exclusive stockbroking firm, for example, which will be just for the armed forces, which could be so populated. Mutual funds. Thank you, sir. Somebody just mentioned it there. Mutual funds. So you
Yeah.
could have
Thank you.
mutual funds. Yes, sir. Mutual funds. I see it right now. Thank you. These mutual funds, trust me, they are coming from a people whom, whether there is a recession or not, they earn a salary. No stories. Before Nigeria does anything, the defense budget is set. Is
Hmm.
set. So
Hmm.
these are people that you can say you are looking at a community of income earners, provided you are alive, serving or retired. And if you could just take $100 per head, and of course it could be more, and bring it together and put it in a mutual fund, I think that they will ring bell for us now on the stock floor. I've seen some companies get the privilege to ring that bell. That's my futuristic projection for Soldier Nigeria, and I hope it gets to happen in my lifetime. And I can drive it. You can drive it. Honestly, you can.
Not only is it that we can drive it, we are at the forefront and we are
Indeed.
shouting it loud and clear for people, hopefully, to listen to this Institute of Chartered Accountants of Nigeria that today.
So indeed, that becomes another aspect of your contribution to drive the successes of our national security architecture dynamics, albeit from the perspective of welfare for our veterans, welfare for our soldiers. Yes, so those are one of the contact points you asked about earlier in the program. Yeah.
Super fantastic and just waiting for us to happen. We have the means, we have the capacity right from that ground floor level to take them on to stock floor and allow by way of discipline, and they will get there. Now, Captain Blade, other than your professional leanings and passion for security, can you elucidate aspects of basic accounting tenets and financial literacy's importance to the military, the law enforcement communities, and by the way, that should also include the police, as they drive cost effectiveness and other welfare aspects, part of which you have just mentioned, of the security agencies that uphold our national security?
Yes, indeed, sir. In fact, this question, you know, takes me, it throws even more light on other sister agencies, like you just mentioned, the police, and it does so particularly for the middle and lower rank uh, operatives. You see, cost effectiveness is not just an expression that is meant to end on the boardroom or with superior commanders. There is this thing about what we call financial literacy that is seemingly absent in the perception of our lower rank veterans. Cost effectiveness and cost efficiency need to be factored into training programs so that units or even visiting accountants could explain this to the lower ranks in ways they can understand. It's like, taking out the bones and just putting the meat, or the fish on a child's plates, like our dear mothers do for us when we were infants, so we can just digest straight the fish. Mommy takes the bones out and just puts it on your plate. We need to do that for the younger ones so that they begin to understand that for any operation to be successful, from scratch, that is from the lowest boots on ground soldier, from the lowest boots on ground policeman, from the lowest boots on ground customs agent, we must imbibe cost effectiveness or cost efficiency. I explain it this way. If you take a ride through town and you see some of our police vehicles, you will not even want to take a ride in them. They look quite very, very tired and scraggy. Maintenance culture across the armed forces and the police must be encouraged by, first of all, making them a bit financially more literate. It also helps them with their own takings. Today, if we understand financial literacy at that lower level, there are some risks our policemen take that won't be worth the risk. Rather, what you have, if you know how, you see, it's not how much you earn or how much you make that matters, is what you do with that which you have. And if you have no financial literacy, even if you were given the central bank every day, you're just going to filter it out. It amounts to nothing. So
Good
basically, for
super.
me,
Good super.
yes, I see a day where a financially literate customs officer, a financially literate soldier, a financially literate officer, a financially literate policeman, they all meet together and understand that, you know what, there is no point for us to have a situation where we could not sustain X much only to incur losses of X raised to power 5 much. If we sustained X much, yes, if we sustained X much to avoid losses X raised to power 5 much, then the institution, the budget will be even what you call, when you have budget surplus as opposed to deficits. Or at the end of the day, that which was budgeted to do X much, we did it so judiciously, so well, that there was more left that we could put to other uses and have other needs of ours met. So there is
Super,
what the Chinese call
super.
a yin yang effect. There's what the Chinese call a yin yang effect. And this yin yang effect is largely driven by that is within the security agencies now and the armed forces, is largely driven by that deficit in the level of financial literacy amongst particularly middle class and lower rank officers.
Super, super, super. I like that. And if you are just joining, this is ICAN on Air, where I have Umar Aliyu Babaginda, Captain Blade, guesting. We're looking at positioning professional accountants within the dynamics of national security architecture in Nigeria. You just spoken about the yin yang, the Chinese model. And please, let's have your questions. Throw in your questions. Yes, time is not our friend, but we'll be able to take at least one or two. And so, Captain Blade, very briefly, what advice do you have for our professional students of accountancy looking at harsh Ukraine and the banks in Nigeria, harsh Urobi, harsh derailing of train between Abuja and Kaduna? Very briefly.
Um, I recall sometime, I think Uromi came up, was it not the same day the Ukraine, when the hostilities, February 24th, when the hostilities started, I know the Nigerian banks actually got hit somewhere in Edo State, and a
Yes.
lot of money was carted away. And my heart went out to those bankers. Definitely in a bank, you find tellers, you find cashiers, you find all those people who work in banks, the accountant and the auditor, you mentioned it. And my mind just went to them, and I was like, wow, some people are experiencing hostilities in Ukraine. And here we have my beloved banking industry experiencing their own, is it Ukraine now? Now, to the advice for potential aspiring accountants, the younger ones who are looking at the industry, trust me, at my age, I still dream of becoming a chartered accountant. I have no plans to apply for a job anywhere. But the fact that in my profession, as in being in the security profession, I have come to marvel at what accountants do. I recall way back when I was practicing, or working for a multinational organization, and we were cracking our heads trying to solve a problem. And somebody just told us that, listen, if you work closely with the accounts department, they may give you insights on how to solve the problem. And of course they did. That is where I was talking about forensic accounting, if you remember. The forensic accountant sits down and allows you, the security practitioner, to run around on your boots and legs doing investigation. And he just follows paper trails. He gathers these paper trails, he follows them, and he tells you, go look XYZ place. Because anywhere you see crime and corruption, there is a quantum of money there. So if you were coming into the accounting profession as a young person, trust me, the future belongs to you. Strategic positioning career wise, if you asked me, one of the highly sought professions, professions that will remain evergreen. Some professions are already obsolete now, given artificial intelligence, virtual reality, and all those things we are coming out with now. Accounting cannot go, no, no, no. IT, accounting, and some others, they cannot be obsolete. They can just be obsolete. So I'm looking forward to seeing younger ones, and I'm also looking forward myself to one day being able to sit down and say, you know what, life is accounting, and I am an accountant, and I'm an accountant.
Super.
Debit and credit is what life is about. I've just added one more day to my life today, and I've also subtracted one more from my life today. So if we were in a bank and were to enter into our books with debit plus one to my days alive, and we do minus one to the expiry date. So life is accounting. Life is
Super.
accounting.
Fantastic.
I enjoy
Thank
it.
you very much.
Yes, indeed.
And I
You're
tell you,
welcome.
Captain Blade, that's your dream is still realizable. Apart from continuing education
Amen. Amen.
that this gives to us, come unto us. Those who seek, you will find. Because within the ICAN profession,
Indeed.
between the ICAN, the institutes, we talk glowingly about the same charter and new chapters. And people like you will be welcome. Again, like I say, time always not wanting to be our friend. I will at this point like to have your final word. Maybe 2 seconds, 2 seconds, 2 seconds within your final words to give us as professional accountants what your outlook and advice will be for 2023, and then your final words, and then we sign out.
2023 itself, as we count down, promises to be a very dynamic year. But I want to say, as a nation, as a people, this too shall pass.
Hmm,
Yes, this too shall pass.
beautiful.
That's my advice.
Let's have your
This too
final
shall
words
pass.
on this subject.
On accounting, I will say accounting to me is a way of life. If you are driving a car, you can actually see accounting happening. The less road you have, the more you have covered. The more you cover, the less there is fuel. Life is about debit and credit. I don't know where I got bitten by this accounting bug or virus, but anywhere I walk and see, I just see accounting. You open the door and you close it. There is also an element of accounting. Opening the door creates room, and then it also takes away room. Look, accounting is to life as life is to accounting. If Nigerians can have an accounting mentality, believe you me, we'll be the richest country on earth.
Hmm, super, super. I want to thank you, my Captain Blade. Unfortunately, time not being our friend. Thank you so, so, so very much for honoring us with your thoughts, your personal expose, especially to our younger ones and even those of our practitioners. We are going to be calling more and more on you. And for our online participants, I'd like to thank you for staying tuned and staying with us. As usual, this is not the end of the road from our seeking for knowledge. Because I tell you, come Tuesday, April 5, 2022, when we are going to be having our next episode of ICAN on Air on all our social media handles, the YouTube, the Facebook, and I always say, don't come to this table coming to draw on knowledge alone. Tell somebody to also tell somebody to key in and see what they will gain from the bounty of the knowledge and wisdom that the Institute of Chartered Accountants freely is giving, not just to our environment in Nigeria, but in being able to think globally and acting local. And the subject we are going to be looking at on Tuesday, April 5, 2022 is what professional accountants should know about data privacy and protection. Looking at the roles and responsibilities of controllers and processors. Guesting with us will be Dr. McLean Shotwedon, DBA, CPD, FCTI, GDRP, CAMS, CIRM, and FCA. He is the president and CEO of Lichton Consulting and Board and Government Limited, as well as a director of Lichton Center for Leadership and Governance. That leadership and governance is the thinking arm of Lichton Academy, Lagos, Nigeria. He's a researcher and has published several articles in international journals and the subject area of leadership, corporate board governance, emotional intelligence, international marketing compliance, data privacy. He is a thought leader in his area of research. Let me leave this thought with you by way of a quotation. I open quote. We cannot continue to rely only on our military in order to achieve the national security objectives we've set. We've got to have a civilian national security force that is just as powerful, just as strong, just as well funded. End of quote. And that quote is attributable to Barack Obama, the 44th POTUS, president of the United States, former president of the US. And so the sun sets on our ICAN on Air program today to arise again on April 5, 2022. We expect to see you then. Like I always say, be the change you always like to see. And until then, I remain Akin Fatunke, your anchor, ICAN on Air. Bye for now.